Listener discretion is advised. 17 Days of Chaos. By Chadrick Fulks. Chapter 1, Breakout.
Hopkins is a modern jail, flat roof, 3 levels, lots of space all around. Stars and stripes on a pole outside make America proud. And they are proud of it in Madisonville, Kentucky. You can even take a guided tour. Sounds fine inside it, doesn't it? But not as fine as not being inside it. We could have made a better decision than to escape in November. It gets down close to freezing then. In December it gets colder still. And there we were on foot and dressed only in underwear and t-shirts. Running around like that in winter was sure to attract attention. Running around in prison clothing even more so. Maybe we can get some warm clothes later, we told each other. Somehow. There were 2 of us, me and a guy named Brandon Basham. The prison had put us together as cellmates 3 months earlier. He got moved around a lot because one by one nobody could stand him anymore. Basham was an odd man, the son of an incestuous relationship. He's 5 years younger than me. He was 20 and I was 25. He'd never been out of Kentucky. He was also coming to the end of his term for forgery. In retrospect, he'd have done better to sit it out. But then, given the way things turned out, so should I. Listen, I'm from here, he said as we ran around Kentucky in our underwear. I know an old school bus near here. Someone's turned it into a place to live. I followed him. I'm not from Madisonville and so I didn't know the area. Keep going, Brandon whispers. There'll be clothes there and maybe some tools. Tools? To break into a car, stupid, and get out of here. You got a better idea? I didn't have a better idea. I'm as new to breaking out of prison as he was. We hear dogs a few minutes after walking into the woods. The guards know we've gone. I imagine the sirens and the clanging doors as the prison locks down. Guards will be everywhere, probably the police too. Our adventure isn't likely to be taken lightly. You'd be surprised how often prisoners break out in the United States. More than 200 a year get the desire not to be inside anymore. Most are caught. Some never are. We plan to be among the never are. The dogs are barking, but perhaps they haven't yet picked up our scent. We push on faster. It makes more sense than stopping, waiting for the dogs to find us, being led back through the gates. At the far end of the forest there is a lake. I'd rather walk around it, but that would leave tracks. And dogs lose scent when they get to water. Swimming is the better choice, even in November. I hesitated, and then I heard a loud splash. I didn't know from what. I don't know what I imagined or what Brandon imagined, but it was enough to risk staying on foot. The weather was bitter. A stolen bottle of Jack Daniels made us less miserable but no less cold. Brandon was drinking enough to fill a swimming pool. Or he would have had he not been limited to the single bottle. You need to keep off the road as jailbreakers. And you need to navigate, so we followed the railroad tracks north. Trains hurtled by every now and then. We hid and pressed on again. I don't know who saw it first. A house. We crept up to it, peered through the windows. There was no one home. Time to get some better clothes. And some loose change, including a silver dollar. We searched the house for 20 minutes. And then I saw just how sick Brandon was. He was in one of the bedrooms licking a vibrator. Brandon, you disgust me. I shouted. But there was no time to argue because a car arrived. It stopped out front, we ran out the back door and back to the railroad. We need to make better progress than this, I said. We're off the road, but 2 guys stumbling along the railroad tracks look pretty obvious to anyone who sees us. And if they don't from the road, chances are they will from a train. And they have radios in those things. Brandon agreed. And then we saw what we needed, a 1977 Ford station wagon. And did that work? No, it didn't. We knew a bit about breaking into things, but nothing was harder than that Ford. We tried for an hour. Our hands were cut and we dripped blood as we walked away defeated. Next came a school bus, one of those big yellow things you see all over the country. Were we any better with that? No, we weren't. And we walked on, feeling the cold still more now because it was late. We found a barn and climbed into its loft and hid behind the hay. Still gotta eat, Brandon said, and he clambered back down. Gonna see what I can find. He was better at stealing food than pinching cars and buses. He came back with a lunchbox, fruit, and a can of soda. Our joy was short-lived though. I don't know if someone had seen us skulking around the place or if Brandon hadn't taken enough care to hide. A man with a gun opened the door. His dog barked over and over. Shut up, the man shouted, and the dog fell silent. That one shot saved our lives. The dog must have smelled us, but now it made no effort to sniff us out. The man walked out again, pissed that someone had stolen his lunch but unable to see who. Wait, till we're clear. We listened until we heard no more steps. Then waited some more before setting back off across the fields. We found the railroad tracks again. We'll freeze our butts off out here, Brandon moaned. And they'll find our frozen bodies in the morning. Night falls early in winter. It gets down to freezing in Kentucky, remember, and we had only the clothes we'd managed to steal. And so I reckon we bum a ride. It's never going to work, I told him, cold and depressed. But I was wrong. And that was how we met James Hawkins. He was 42 years old. Can you help us? Brandon asked politely, a look of sadness to encourage sympathy. It was 9 at night. My brother hurt his ankle. He's at the bottom of the driveway. Could we use your phone? Hawkins was a good man. He'd drive us to give us a jump, he said. We climbed into his truck, a gray 1989 GMC Sierra, us in stolen clothes, him in shorts and flip-flops and a short-sleeved vest. I didn't look like Brandon. No one would take us for brothers. I kept my head turned away. Brandon had said a couple miles, but he made Hawkins drive on. We left his home in Hanson, and we were still going 15 miles later. It was then that the state troopers came past in a hurry, lights flashing. They were men on a mission. Hawkins nodded at them and smiled as they headed into the darkness. Better be glad you didn't get picked up with them thinking you're the 2 escapees from Madisonville, he said with a smile on his face. I froze. I didn't say a word. I willed Brandon to do the same, but we didn't need to. I'm sure he had figured us out. We crossed into Indiana. Hawkins fell silent. He said he was almost out of gas. Pull over at a payphone, I suggested. I'll call a friend who can bring us some. I called Tina Severance from a roadside payphone 2 miles later and waited and waited. She wasn't picking up. I should explain that Tina was a prison guard. And why would I call the enemy? Because Tina and I had a relationship in my previous prison at Westville, Indiana in 2001. I'd been there since 1998. We got along well and she brought me food and little things like that. A female companion always makes a difference, not least in prison. These things happen. I walked back to the car. We asked him to drive us to the next exit in Evansville, Indiana, where my friend would meet us and give him money for gas. And it was then that Brandon showed once more what a prick he was. He pulled a knife on Hawkins, this man who'd done nothing but help us. Don't try anything, he said like a film gangster. And you'll be okay. Hawkins begged for his life. Please don't hurt me, he pleaded. I got a young son at home. I have to take care of him. We started driving again and he began to swerve all over the road. I told him to pull over. I drive. I set off north and then east on a country road north of Evansville, finally into a big field. We got out. Mr. Hawkins was scared. And well, he might be because Brandon wanted to kill him. He was waving the knife. Hawkins, after all, was the only man to know where we were. I told Brandon to come to his senses, not to be so stupid. All we need to do is tape him to a tree and cover him over with his seat cover. Hawkins was shaking, from fear but also from the cold. I put a doghouse cover over him to block the wind and started taping his hands to buy us some time to get away. I heard later that the poor man had gotten free 15 hours later. He waved down a driver and went to the police, scared and cut from his struggle to get free but otherwise all right.